everyone. Welcome to our final webinar in the Empowerment with Power BI series. One is centered around AI in Power BI. My name is Sarah Weeder. I work in the marketing department at Motifworks, and we are gonna go ahead and get started in a few minutes as a few more attendees sort of filter in. So thank you so much for registering. Thank you so much for attending, and we will go ahead and get started in a little bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome again to the Empowerment with Power BI webinar series. This is our fifth and final webinar in this series centered around AI in Power BI. Our speaker today is Tarun Agarwal. He is the Director of Data and AI at Motifworks. He is incredibly knowledgeable in this field, knows a lot about Power BI, a lot about AI. So we're really excited to have him here today to share some of his knowledge with you. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tarun, and he is going to go ahead and get started on the exciting content that we have for you today.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are logging in today. And thanks for all your time to take time out of your busy schedule to attend this webinar. As Sarah mentioned, we were hosting a series of webinar around how do we empower users with data and AI in Power BI. So, and we have been covering on various aspects of Power BI, which is all around how can you bring in your own data and start to analyze in Power BI. How can you create storytelling, visualization, and really tell data insights using a story around data. So that's all things we have covered. Today we are going to take one more step for a leap forward and talk about how can we infuse various machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques inside Power BI. Okay, but before we jump into the content for the webinar today, quick background about myself. Like Sarah mentioned, I'm the Director of Data and AI at Motifworks. Motifworks is a Gold partner, Microsoft Gold partner, and a cloud solution provider company. We are using and leveraging various Microsoft Azure cloud data services like machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive services to enable digital transformation for our customers. And I have depth of experience and knowledge around building strategic solutions using data platforms. Quick background about Motifworks. At Motifworks, we are based in Maryland and about 10-year-old company. We are a company which is born in cloud, and we think and always cloud first, and we live and breathe Azure. We take pride to call ourselves Azure Smart. We are working with our customers in various industries to meet their business need, whether it is around digital transformation, creating intelligent applications, or connected enterprise by leveraging cloud, and either it's in the form of elevating their IT infrastructure in the form of rehost, re-architect, or re-platform initiatives, creating innovation in their product and services by leveraging various cloud native services and data and AI, and also help our customers manage and operate their cloud solutions. We have all the right credentials around Azure of all the specialization and certification to use Azure. So with that, let's jump into today's presentation, which is around infusing AI in Power BI, which we are going to talk about what are the various options available in Power BI that can leverage all the various AI techniques. How can we democratize AI in the organization and make it available to every user, not just data scientists who typically leverage the AI kind of features, and how can end users collaborate with data scientists to deliver the insights. So before we jump into that, just a quick refresher around Power BI. So Power BI is a tool that allows you to experience your data, any way, anywhere, whether the data is born in cloud or it's coming from your systems of records in your business applications on premises, whether it's a structured, unstructured, batch data, streaming data, real-time data, any data that you would like to bring and consume anywhere you want, whether you want to use the data on browser, on mobile phone, on your own applications by embedding various Power BI Insight, or you are happy using Microsoft Excel as your BI platform and you would like to consume Power BI inside Excel. Everything is possible in Power BI. And quickly talk about what exactly end user needs when they want to do they generate data insights or do BI using it. They want to access the data, and we talked about how Power BI has over 115 data connectors to connect and access your data. You need capabilities around to clean the data, so not because data is not always clean. So the Power BI provides various data wrangling and data cleaning functionals using the mQuery language that we talked about. You can combine the multiple data sets coming from various sources and create data mashups. And you can explore the data, create various DAX functions we have seen in some of the previous webinars. You can visualize the data, and we extensively talked about how can we create a story around by visualizing the data that's coming from our data source data sets, and then how we want to collaborate and share the insights with the rest of the organization. So these are end user needs that Power BI caters and fulfills to make the full circle. And today we are going to talk about how can we bring in AI into the circle. So before we jump into the actual AI, let's look at the evolution of the AI BI industry. So if you recall, I think we looked at a slightly different chart or visual in previous webinars where it was talking about the different eras of BI, and we talked about a corporate BI and then self-service BI and then end-user BI, and we talked about how Power BI facilitates an end-user BI, which is providing information to at the fingertips of everyone in the organization, not just a handful of people. So this is another visual that talks about evolution of BI industry, and this is coming from Gartner. So Gartner classifies BI in 4 different kinds of analysis. Descriptive analysis, which is really looking into the rear view mirror and looking at what happened. So tell me what was my sales year to date, tell me what was my sale last year, and sales across regions, sales by product, those kind of things, right? So these kind of what rear view mirror reporting that really happened in the past. Then the second kind of BI is diagnostics analysis, which is why it happened. Why did my sales drop? Why I have a product on back order? Why did my customer churn? Okay, so these are all the diagnostics and two analysis, which is talking about why. So again, it is still looking at the rear view data, the historical data, still in the rear view mirror, but asking a lot more deeper question about why something happened, not just what happened. So what in a churn example could be which of my customer churned last month or last year. And in the diagnostics analysis, same question we will ask them is, why did they churn? Why did they leave me, right? The third evolution of the BI is around predictive analytics, which we are now from the rear view, we are starting to look forward and asking questions around what will happen, what will be my sales, predictive sales, right? Whether I will be able to meet my forecast, or which customers will churn in future, right? These are the predictive analytics kind of questions. And the last one is the high end of all this BI is called prescriptive analytics, which is how can we make it happen kind of questions. Like for example, in a churn kind of scenario, which of my customers will churn and what can I do to take some corrective actions. So that's really prescriptive analysis, is not only just looking at what will happen, but what actions I can take on based on what will happen. So that's really the prescriptive analytics. And so this is like foresight and looking into future and then taking some corrective actions. And more we see that typically people start implementing machine learning and AI kind of techniques in predictive analytics and a prescriptive analytics steps. So as what will happen or what corrective actions I need to take, people typically start implementing AI or machine learning techniques in these two kind of BI. But what we think is it's not more, it's about evolving the product sophistication and start to apply machine learning kind of techniques for the predictive and prescriptive analytics. It's about infusing AI at every step. So even simple questions like what happened, they can be so much greatly improved by using various AI techniques. Why did it happen? Deeper analysis certainly can be benefited and leveraged using various machine learning techniques. So it's not about just creating more complicated products or more sophisticated products to answer of a higher end questions. It's all about how can we use these techniques at every step so that every single end users are getting the right answers, the right insights to take whatever decisions that they need to make. Okay, so from that point of view, let's quickly look at how can we apply AI kind of techniques for the descriptive analysis kind of a use case, like what happened, which of my customer churned, and what were my sales in last year, right? So how can we use machine learning and AI techniques for answering descriptive analytics questions? And typically, what we see is we need to get answers, right? What my customer, which of my customers churn? That is one question, but maybe there could be a variation of that question is which of my customers from Northeast region churn, right? So every time, typically the way the process currently works in a BI kind of a scenario is uh, we try to create various reports and then come up with the answers to all the questions that the business users are asking. We can create various slicers and filters and drill downs to answer the next level of questions, but it is very, very impossible to anticipate every single question a user might ask. And even if we are able to think about all the possible questions that they might ask, we might end up creating a very complicated BI report or multiple reports, which has lots of filters and slicers and drill downs that an end user may not be well versed in analytics, and he might get lost into what exactly am I doing and how do I really make sense of this report. And if somebody is sitting in a train going to work and he has a question, he probably may not be able to get an answer to the question unless he get to the right report. Or if a business user is sitting in a board meeting and the board of directors wants to ask question that he may not have a ready answer available from report, he may need to go back to his business analyst or finance teams to get answers to the question and then follow up with the board of directors. But it will be so much beneficial if we can have end users naturally ask the questions that they would like to answer, and the BI tool gives the answer, right? So it's like, how do we use natural language? So like a Google example, like today, if you have a question you want to search, we use search engines like Google or Bing to get answers. It will be so much convenient if the end users are able to ask questions about the data and get the answers back from the BI tool. But it's not just asking questions, right? This is also a complicated problem because everybody might ask questions differently, and we have to make a system robust enough to understand various different kind of questions. And not only the question needs to translate into the right BI visuals or reports that is seamless and then work along with everything else. And like I mentioned, people can ask questions differently, and the system may not be able to understand every single question. So the system must have a feedback loop, and it gets better or with time by depending on what kind of questions are being asked, right? So these are all the different things. If we can make it possible, it will be really, really great empowerment for the users to even asking about descriptive questions like what really happened. So let's take a look at how we can implement natural way of asking questions in Power BI. All right, so let's jump into a quick demo. Give me 1 second if I can find my Power BI. Okay, so this is a Power BI that I already pre-created, and you can see I'm using a visual here, which is ask a question about your data, and there are already predefined questions based on the data. So right now I'm dealing with a customer feedback data set. So if you look at my data set here, I have a customer table that has all the customer records about their tenure, and then different ratings that they have given around the features and the themes which are there. And based on the rating, there's a score that was given by them. And then we have various devices that they are using, whether it is a browser or a mobile phone, to provide to use for the application. We have a geography table that gives which continent and the country that these users belong to. And then the company has a data set about the size of the company, right? Whether how many employees are there in the company. So this is the kind of data set that I'm using to build this visualization. And by default, we can ask we can click on any of these predefined questions, and that we are going to get that Power BI is going to look at the questions and then give the answers. Like these are the top themes by score, and so like the top other was a top theme which has given a higher score of 7.63 based on the feedback score that users have given, and the theme price got also 7.63 score. So there are some predefined questions which are here, but we can ask our own questions. So let's see if we can ask Power BI some question and see what can we get. So again, like I do on a Google search or a Bing search, I can ask something like, give me count of customers by, let's see by count of customer by theme. As you can see, as I'm typing, Power BI is already giving me the answers that there are 45,000 customers so far, so we have in the system. But I don't want just 45,000. I want to break it down by theme. As you can see, the way I'm writing and typing the question, it's already giving me a report that breaks down the customers by various themes, which is there in the theme column in the customer table. And so there are, in the price theme, there are 9,734 customers, and so on and so forth. And it's already deciding, Power BI is deciding that a bar chart, a horizontal bar chart, is the right visual to show me this data. But we don't have to stop here, right? We can continue to type and ask a question. So I don't want to see all the customers. I only want to see in a particular region. So I can say in Germany. Okay, GER, if I can type correctly. So it gives me a Germany. So you can see now, it's already filtering the result based on Germany. And this is all the customers by theme coming from Germany region. So price, which has a 9,734 customers, but from Germany, it's only 3,758. So you can see I'm naturally asking a question, and Power BI is able to understand what I'm trying to ask and come up with the answer based on the data that we have, and also able to lay out a visual. Few things to note here. If you see, there is a blue line down here, which means it is able to identify these as a keyword coming from my data. So Power BI is looking at my data as I'm typing, and depending on the configuration which has been done behind the scene, and it's able to give me the answer for this data. So, but we don't have to stop here. We can type another thing. Let's see if we can find, let's say, what should be my another question? Show me, let's ask this. Show me, okay, if I can, customer, show me. Sometimes it takes some time to catch up with my keystrokes. So show me customer score, then I can always select it here. And so this is a show me customer score by country region. So I want to see customer score by country region. So as you can see, it's already identifying based on what I'm typing that maybe I'm trying to ask. So it's giving me suggestions, and then this is what I was looking for. So these are all the country regions available in the data set that I have, and it's showing me the customer score, average score by each of the countries. So in Germany has an average score of 7.54. Another beauty about this solution is once this is I get this report in this visual, from here it is very much interactive like anything else in Power BI. So if I click on Germany, you can see my other visuals which are not a natural language, are a standard visual that I already put together. It's only showing me the Germany data. It's already pre-filters. So if I want to see the data from Germany, and then it's what our ratings are there. It's everything is getting pre-filtered. So I can do the same thing. I can click on Spain. It's going to show me the Spain data, and then the various ratings of for Spain, and then by theme, how much Spain is. So you can see it's not only one visual that is created, but it's pervasive around everything else which is there in Power BI. Another thing is that if you want this to become a regular visual that you would like to put it in your report, not just as a question, you can click on this button that says turn this into a standard visual. The moment I click on this, now it has converted, Power BI has converted this visual as a standard horizontal bar chart or the cluster bar chart, as opposed to a Q&A. You see the Q&A is gone, then I can always undo and go back to my Q&A visual if I want. So you can see how easy it is to create visualization by asking a question naturally to Power BI and work with it. So let's see if we can quickly, I think in the interest of time, I need to move ahead, but I can see if I can show you something else. If I type something like, if I can type correctly, COU, and so country region with good rating. Okay, so I asked a question to Power BI that show me all the country regions who has a good rating, and there's a red bar here, because what does red bar means? Power BI does not understand what does good really mean. They are saying, so what the output you see is they have shown all the ratings for all the countries, whether it is low or high, because they do not understand. So what we can do here is we can train Power BI, and we can click on this red horizontal bar and say define good. So if I go to define good, I can teach Q&A. So I can teach Power BI what do I mean by good. So okay, so right now it's highlighted here, and I can say good means score less than 6. Okay, so what Power BI is already doing is that it's already showing you the preview of the data, that this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, I like it. I think everything is good. I can save my data, and Power BI is gonna actually take it and work, and then the questions about country with good rating will start to work. Okay, so let's move ahead. In the interest of time, I will go back to my Power BI, and so if we have to look at in the questions like diagnostics analysis, why did something happen? Why my customers churn? So if you have to answer questions like this, how can we use machine learning techniques to answer questions around the why questions? But there could be many different why questions, and these are much more deeper questions because you have to do a lot more analysis, which require time and investigation. And typically, people have been using various statistical analysis techniques to come up with the why answers. So this has not been something new. People have been doing it for many, many years, probably over 100 years, ever since statistics have been there. People use various tools like SAS and SPSS in the past, or various other statistical tools. In recent times, people have started doing these kind of statistical analysis using R, which is becoming very popular language, or even Python supports statistical analysis. So people have been using it, but it's really very, very hard and not really meant for end users. So let's take a look at some of the features available in Power BI that can help us answer the why questions. So if I go back to my Power BI report again, and this time, one thing first out of the bat, what Power BI allows you to do is any visual, you can right click on a visual and say analyze. And if you look at the distribution, what it is doing is Power BI already understands the context of this bar chart and the price. I clicked on it and analyze the question about why this price is this much. And it's running various kind of regression analysis behind the scene to tell us why the price is for this much for the country. That I think it already took the context from the all the other visuals, and it is giving you the reason why the rating is this much, and it's giving a statistical analysis of which of these factors, whether the size of the company or people who have completed survey is impacting this value of the price. Okay, so that's one feature out of the box which is available. Other thing what I have done is to facilitate some of the questions is I've created a key influencer visual, and now what here we are looking at what influences the rating to be high. So rating is if you notice was a column that says whether the rating that was given by the customers was high or low depending on what score they gave on each of the themes. So here we are trying to analyze what influencing a rating to be high or low. So what's really happening behind the scene is we are running various correlation tests to understand how is the relationship between the target variable, which is a rating here, when with all other factors of the data, which are called influencers. And if it is a continuous factor, which is not this one, because this is a categorical factor which is high or low, two values. So if it is a categorical factor, like in this case, it is running a point biserial correlation technique behind the scene. Whereas if it was a continuous factor, like a house price example, I'm going to show it shortly, it is going to run per Pearson correlation technique behind the scene. So let's try to understand what exactly are we trying to say. So what this data is telling me is for a rating to be high, the tenure of the customer who is giving the rating, if it is between 0 to 29 years, then it is likelihood that their ratings is going to be 1.17x higher than other people who have tenure not in between 0 and 29. And on if I click on this bubble, which is right here, I can see on the bar chart that this is the average rating and this is the various rating, the tenure buckets, and the people who are in 0 to 29 tenure, their rating is going to be approximately 1.17x higher. These are other factors which are influencing the role in the organization. The people who have publisher role, their rating is going to be 1.12x higher than people who have a different than a publisher role, like administrator or a consumer role in this case. So this is how you can see Power BI is allowing you to understand an answer of what and why is my rating is high or low in this case. So this is an example of various regression and the correlation techniques that is happening in Power BI. And then like same thing, I already created a slicer. So I can say, I want to only see this analysis only for company, all the customers who are coming from a company who's have 5,000 or less employees. And here now you can see the companies who are have less than 5,000 employees, the tenure is no longer the most highest influencer. Now the role publisher is the most highest influencer. Tenure actually has gone down, and actually the tenure also bucket has changed from 0 to 29 is to 5 to 29. So that's one way you can answer why question. And this is another one is it is using clustering technique. So what for rating to be high, it has taken all the data that we have in our data set and created 4 different clusters. And it's also already giving you the population count of how many data sets are there in each of these cluster, and we can go and see the definition of each of this cluster. So what it is saying is the first cluster, which is made up of all the feedback that we have received from customer who are not from France and whose role is publisher. So this is one cluster that has around 2436 data points, and these are their various feedback analysis. So that's the second way of answering a lot of why questions that is based on various machine learning techniques in Power BI. Another technique that I would like to show you is called decomposition tree. So this is another visual, and which is right here. So I'm trying to understand why is my scores 4.72. So I think if you look at my definition of my visual, I'm trying to analyze my score based on various other features which is available to me, and I'm trying to see why is my score 7.42, what influences my score to be 7.42. And from here all I can do is I can click on this plus button, and I want to see Anyhow, I can go from any, there's no order. I can go to any of those. So I can see based on the theme. So what it will do, Power BI is going to do me, show me is it's going to show me that depending on the themes, the over average score of 7.42, the other theme actually is feedback is getting better than average feedback. 7.42 and 7.53 is it's influenced, and you can see which of the following features, the themes, is impacting my overall score. Like some of the governance and support features of my website is actually giving me low rating on my feedback, and from here I can go and see what influences my price score to be 7.63. Let me see based on role in the organization. So people who have who have given me an average score of 7.63, how is it breakdown by role? And I can see that publishers have given me higher score than consumers. And if you like, you can keep on drilling down to any of the levels that you would like. But if you do not know where you should drill down to, this is a two high value and low value with a bulb. These are the AI splits that Power BI is giving you, and which is basically it's going to run analysis behind the scene on its own to tell you which one is the next in most influencing thing. You do not have to define, and it's saying country region is the one which is actually defining the publisher rating to be 7.79, and Spain is actually giving you higher rating than France, right? So this is an AI split which is not derived by me, but Power BI using the AI techniques have identified that the most influence is on country split than anything else in the system. And like anything else, it is pervasive. I can click on my slicer and everything will change. As you can see, the UK has become #1 as opposed to Spain. If I look at all my companies with a size, the ratings will change. So that's another way of leveraging AI and machine learning to answer questions around why or diagnostics analysis. All right. So let's move down to the next ones, which are the predictive analytics and the prescriptive analysis. The questions here we are trying to answer is which of my customers will churn in future, and the prescriptive analytics is what can I do to take some corrective actions, right? So how can we use various techniques available? So typically we use machine learning techniques for very predictive analytics techniques to answer these questions, and we will combine the data of BI data, the data set that we have, apply some predictive models, and then get you the results to get the answers. So this is an example of customer segmentation that we have done for our retail customer, which is actually applying various clustering techniques and a technique called RFM analysis, recency, frequency, and monetary, to classify segments of the customers in various different segments, because customers who are at the risk of leaving us versus loyal customers who are always with us and who continue to work and transact with the company for a long time, versus who are my recent customers and which customers are hibernating, like not really making any purchases in recently, and which customers need more attention. So this is based on the RFM technique, which I mentioned, is how frequently the customers buy from our retail store, how much value they buy it, and how frequency monitoring, and how recently they have purchased, right? How long ago they made the purchase. So based on various machine learning techniques like clustering and RFM algorithms, we have created this dashboard for our customers. But as you can see, building machine learning techniques and applying them and then creating Power BI could be a challenge. You will have to blend machine learning techniques and in BI to come up with a high value proposition. And not everybody is a data scientist, and end users, when they are trying to create their own data insights themselves, they need some of these techniques themselves, so that they don't have to rely on every single answer from a data scientist, and they can address their own issues. But typically this whole machine learning process is a complicated process. You start, this is how the the machine learning process works in a nutshell. You start with the historical data. You do various feature selection of which of the historical data attributes that you have will be required for machine learning analysis, and then you break the historical data into a training data set and a testing data set. Then you choose various different algorithms available, and then apply different kind of algorithms on your training data set to train a model. And this is an iterative process, and you have to apply various different algorithms to come up with the right model. And then you have to tweak the parameters of the algorithm that you are using to really come up with the right optimized model. And then you test the trained model based on the test data set, and then evaluate the score, and then make sure it is ready. But so this is a very, very cumbersome, complex, iterative process, which is typically followed by data scientists and beyond the expectation that we can have from an end user to apply this. So if you really think about it, how cool it will be if you have a historical data set, your Excel file or your data set, or coming from your database or anything, then there we can put everything, all these techniques into a box, and then the historical data set will go into a box will do whatever it needs to do, and then give you an optimized model that you can use it on your other data set every day. So it will be really, really good, right? If you can automate this whole process and make it transparent. So how can we actually do automation, right? So we should not only just focus on automation and making it available to end user, but we should also focus on making it explainable, that we can understand what did happen in the black box, right? When the automation happened, what really happened? How did it come up with this model, right? What were the parameters used? So it is very, very important to have a credibility on our models, to have it explainable. So this is a FICO kind of analogy that I'm using to explain. So typically, if you are going to go through a training data and make it go through the various learning process, the data set output is going to be, this is a cat. This animal that we were looking at is a cat. But user might have questions that, why did you say it's cat? How did you identify this is a cat? But there is no answer, right? So that does not give you a lot of credibility, as opposed to if we have a model which is explainable. So when it goes through this automation process, it tells you it is a cat because we saw it has fur, it has whiskers, and it has claw. So that makes this animal a cat. So like explainable AI is really, really important. So there's a feature in my Power BI and Azure Cloud that we can use, which is called automated ML. So allows you to create your data sets in Power BI and apply a machine learning model, which is based on identify which entity you want to predict, choose the various machine learning algorithms that I want to use, a binary prediction or classification or a linear regression kind of technique, choose the various features that you would like to do, and it will go through the same process that we talked about of going through the feature selection of which of the columns will be required, applying various different algorithms, run it multiple times to tweak the algorithm, applied to go through the hyper tuning of the parameters to make sure that all the right values of each of the algorithm are tuned, and that gives you the most optimized results, and it will give you the model built for you that you can use. So this is called automated ML feature in Power BI. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is this auto ML feature in Power BI is supported only if you have Power BI Premium. So for those of you who have Power BI Premium and have AI workload analytics enabled, you will be able to use this feature in Power BI. And then once you have created the optimized model, you can apply that optimized model on your own data set to give you the prediction. So, and this is how AutoML feature really works. So let me show you some of the other examples that I would like to show. If I can show you. So this is, I think I showed you the key influencer, right? So based on the thing I showed you was what influences the ratings to go high and low. So this is a continuous variable. I think I remember, if you remember, I talked about correlation based on categorical variable versus continuous. So this is a continuous variable, the sales price of a house. So this is a housing sales price data set. we can do analysis based on what influences the house price to go higher versus lower. So this analysis is saying that the exterior outlooks of the house has it is excellent exterior quality of the house, then it influences the house price to go up by $193,000. And you can see these are the different kinds of categories of the exterior quality. Excellent, on an average, it is $174,000 influence, and but if you have an excellent, it is I think about $360,000 or $365,000. So that influences the house price to go higher than $193,000 than anything else. And neighborhood plays a second most influencing role. If the neighborhood is in the no-rich neighborhood, and we all know that depending on the schooling of the neighborhood and the crime rate, the pricing can be different. So if the neighborhood in this is actually a Seattle data based on no-rich neighborhood, then it influences the prices to go up by $158,000. So that's another way we can use key influencer visual to talk about how can we use it. So there's one more thing I want to talk about it. This is a Power BI dashboard based on the various ratings customers have given based on the hotels they have stayed in different hotels, and it's a hotels of Hawaii. And what we have done is we have applied other techniques of Azure data platform like cognitive services. And if you see my data set, I have already on my customers data set, which has my customer data, we have applied the customer review. So these are all the reviews that customers have given. Like you can see the comments that I was not made aware of the extra cleaning charges that take. So these are the real hotel reviews that people have posted. So on the data, we have applied various Azure cognitive services techniques and created already sentiment score based on the comments. It has given you the sentiment score, and also classified that what the sentiment is trying to say. It's like disappointing, the kind of thing. And then various images that they have posted, we were able to create a tag, like what is this image about? So air conditioner or pool image of a pool or a beach or a view or a water view or the room view photo of images, and also gives you a probability of how what is accuracy of this tag based on the image that they have given on their reviews. And we have also used another technique called key phrase extraction, and extracted all of these key phrases from the reviews. And using this, we are able to make this dashboard. Again, this requires a little bit more work because you have to first write these machine learning algorithms into Azure Machine Learning, and then you call these Azure Machine Learning algorithms in Power BI using the Power BI query editor that we have seen in the past. But in the interest of time, I don't want to go through the actual how exactly these machine learnings are invoked. It's basically but in a very nutshell, you work with your data scientist to create these various machine learning algorithms that can be registered as a web service, and then the web service can be invoked in Power BI along with your data set. But once I have it done, it's already configured, and you can see I can click on a hotel chain for 4 islands, and it gives me all the reviews for this thing, these hotels, and different reviews they've done, and also it's giving you a word cloud of the key phrase extractions that we have done. So allows you to really look at the custom hotel reviews. So like if I click on air conditioner, this is coming based on the image tag, right? So if I'm looking at the air conditioner, you can see all the pictures in the review that customers have posted of AC is showing up. And typically, when do you think people will post an AC picture? Is only when they have a complaint with the air conditioner, right? If it was broken, it was not working or something like that. And that's what I see is written here. The AC was broken, it was giving issues, it was dirty. That's what the people reviews are, and you can see the word cloud, how it is showing you this. So again, this is a little bit more advanced kind of AI technique, because you have to first build your AI machine learning models, register them as a web service in Azure, but then it allows you, Power BI allows you to integrate with Azure machine learning. So this gives you a very comprehensive Azure experience in this. So I think the takeaway from this webinar is the rise of the data scientists as a citizen, right? We can leverage various machine learning models and then give it to in the hands of the end users who are not specialized data scientists, but who are ordinary people who are very expert in their domain, and they want to do data insights, and they can leverage machine learning kind of algorithms themselves in Power BI. And we can democratize. It does not have to be staying in the hands of statisticians and use various diagnostics analysis. We can democratize this all statistical analysis to answer the diagnostic analysis questions, and then we can also have a natural way of asking questions to Power BI tools like Power BI, and then get answers very quickly and very intuitively. Okay, so in the end, what it boils down to is, no matter whether we are catering to a data scientist or an end user or a business analyst or a financial analyst, we are providing them these features and experiences that is trustworthy, that is intuitive, and that is beautiful for them to be leveraging data insights in their decision-making process. All right, so that concludes our webinar for today, and also concludes our series of 5 webinars around empowerment with Power BI. I think just to summarize, we looked at how can Power BI helps to move away from Excel-based reporting, and different pivot tables and VLOOKUP functions can be achieved so much better in Power BI using various techniques in Power BI. How we learned about how can we ingest and consolidate data, apply various M functions and Power Query Editor functions to really create good data mashups. We can create various transformations and build relationships between the data and create star schema and snowflake kind of schema in Power BI to enable various advanced analytics kind of concepts in Power BI. We can use DAX functions to apply on top of the transformations that we have done, and to really make it time series analysis very, very powerful. And then we also looked at how can we use various different kinds of visuals to talk about data, share the data inside, like a very compelling story behind the data, and not just a series of bar chart or tables or visuals. It's based on what helps us to think about the data and take it from a short-term memory all the way into the long-term memory that can stick and that can eventually drive the decision making. And today we talked about how can we leverage various machine learning and AI techniques in Power BI to really empower the end users to do what they would really like to do without depending solely on data scientists. One message I do want to make sure that people understand is we are not talking about replacing data scientists with Power BI. There will always be a need for data scientists. They are expert in their field. They know how to do, say, various kinds of supervised and unsupervised reinforcement learnings themselves, deep learning concepts. All those things will continue to play a role. What we are talking about is how can we use some of those concepts and empower end users to do the deeper analysis than just looking at business intelligence, right? That's really the whole theme about infusing AI in Power BI. So that concludes the presentation today, and I think we have some few minutes left to go into a Q&A session. So Sarah, I'll hand it over back to you to see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Tarun. I really appreciate you sharing all this information with us. To all the attendees, thank you so much for attending this webinar. For those of you that stuck it out through all the webinars, we really appreciate that, and we hope you learned a lot. as Tarun mentioned, right now, feel free to ask some questions. You just type it into your chat box and I'll read the question to Tarun. And if you have any follow-up questions after this, feel free to email him. So one question we have is, which machine learning algorithm does AutoML support?
Okay, so yeah, AutoML feature, that's a feature of making the black box of all the typical machine learning steps and then coming up with optimized model. So the way all the different algorithms that currently Power BI Premium supports are linear regression, logistics regression, and classification. These are the three which are more than enough for most of the popular machine learning models are supported in AutoML. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Tarun. So another question we have is, can AutoML run in desktop?
Can AutoML run in desktop? Thank you for the question, the great question. But the answer is, I think, unfortunately, I could not show you the demo today because it requires Power BI Premium. But Power BI Premium is a Power BI service offering, and it will require you to build a data flow and then implement machine learning models on the service. So it cannot run in desktop because it does not need to be in desktop. You can use various other machine learning techniques, I think like cognitive services I was talking about, in desktop. But for AutoML to work, you will have to be on the browser in Power BI service.
All right, thank you. And then, can I integrate an existing ML model in Power BI?
Great question. And yes, the answer is yes. And I think I showed a glimpse of that in that hotel review, where I was able to integrate sentiment analytics, key phrase extraction, and the image tagging using an existing model. So the way the process will work is you create your machine learning algorithm for, like, for example, sentiment analytics algorithm using Azure Machine Learning Service or Azure Machine Learning Studio or even Databricks, Azure Databricks. Any of these three things will work. You create them and then you register the model, the final model that comes out of any of these three tools as a web service. And then if you are using the same account, use a Power BI account which has also access to your Azure subscription, you will be able to integrate it in Power BI and then use it in your Power BI dashboards. Thank you for the question.
All right, great. And then, can I run R code in Power BI?
Can you run R code in Power BI? Answer is yes. You can run both R and Python code in Power BI. I think it allows you to integrate R code, so you can write your entire R code inside Power BI and then run it, and it will be able to. I mean, you have to import some and download some libraries to support. Though if you are using certain libraries in your R code, those libraries needs to be installed in Power BI. But once you install those libraries, you will be able to run your R code. You will be able to show the output of the R as a visual in Power BI. And then those visuals will be able to integrate with a non-R visual which is already created in Power BI. Yes, so I think that's a seamless integration Power BI supports. Hope that answers. Thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you so much, Tarun. So we're pretty much out of time, everyone. So at this point, if you do have any other follow-up questions, feel free to email Tarun and he will definitely get back to you with the answers to your questions. You can expect to receive an email within the next 24 hours with a recording of this webinar, as well as a link to all of the webinars. So if for whatever reason you are unable to attend one of the previous webinars, you can still watch those webinars. We have them up on our website and you can watch them in order and continue to learn from Tarun and all of his knowledge that he has. So thank you so much for attending this webinar series. Thank you, Tarun, for hosting and sharing all of your information and knowledge with us. And we hope to see you guys at our next webinar event that we have probably coming up next month. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for hosting it.